Welcome back. A new federal auto strategy aims to revitalize the industry in Canada. Here's a look by the numbers. The core of the strategy is around electric vehicles. The goal is 75% EVs as a percentage of total sales by 2035 and 90% by 2040. To encourage that switch, the feds will introduce tougher emission targets for vehicles produced between 2027 and 2032, making it agnostic as to how that's done. But there will be help for EVs all the same with a new incentive program for vehicles valued up to $50,000, with incentives higher for electric cars than hybrids, and they will allocate $1.5 billion to build out charging infrastructure. Trade also plays a role with a new emphasis on rewarding manufacturers who produce vehicles in Canada. And there's money for the sector to adapt, $3 billion from the Strategic Response Fund and $100 million from the Regional Tariff Response Initiative. That investment by the government is a reflection of the number and quality of jobs in the sector, 130,000 direct jobs, another 500,000 tied to it. But whatever happens in the future, are those jobs safe? Brian Kingston is president and CEO of the Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association. Brian, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me on.
Obviously, it's a hugely important sector. I do want to start quite high level with what you thought of the federal strategy. Does it give you confidence?
Overall, we welcome the strategy. First and foremost, the federal government got rid of the redundant EV sales mandate. We've been asking for this for the better part of 4 years. It was duplicative to existing emissions regulations, and the mandate was putting significant cost on manufacturers at a time where the industry is under great pressure from U.S. tariffs. So that was very welcome. But I also like that they paired it with demand-side measures to boost EV adoption. We do not have an EV supply problem in this country. There's 115 models available. We have a demand problem. So the strategy introduced a new incentive as well as some funds for charging infrastructure. So all in all, a good strategy. Of course, the success of this will depend on whether or not we can restore our access to the U.S. market, which ultimately underpins Canada's auto industry.
And big question mark there, Brian. We have the feeling that there's kind of a plan B, right, and that underpins that new federal strategy, that we need to come up with something else. Could that be a closer, deeper relationship with either European or Asian auto manufacturers?
There is no plan B for the automotive industry. The idea that you would build vehicles in Canada and export them to the world, it doesn't make commercial sense and it doesn't make economic sense. This industry, since the 60s and the Auto Pact, has thrived because of our access to the U.S. market. We happen to sit beside the largest, wealthiest economy in the world. We are never going to change that. So if we cannot find some sort of accommodation with the Americans, our automotive industry will simply not be the size it is today. There is no commercial rationale to put a plant here and send vehicles to Europe or to Asia.
You know, the auto show's on, and we're seeing some of the latest models. To your point about the demand side of EV, a lot of manufacturers have backed off their EV plans because the customer wasn't there. Are you seeing evidence that they will be pushing back in that direction?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, manufacturers are still committed to electrification. And if you look at the auto show and just see all of the product that's being introduced, there's huge volumes of EV models that are in market and coming to market. The challenge is this. I think we overestimated the pace with which this transition was going to take place. And what we're finding is we've gone through that early adopter consumer. They've all been serviced. They've got their EVs. We're now moving into mass market adoption. And that consumer is very different. They're looking for an affordable vehicle, and they're looking for something that can do all of their driving needs, meet all of their driving needs. So they need mass charging infrastructure. So we don't have those in place yet. And that's what it will take to get to higher levels. But the industry is still absolutely moving in this direction. It's just not going to happen by 2035.
And, of course, to your point about the integration with that U.S. market, there not being a plan B, what does happen to the jobs in this sector if we do lose our access to that market? Is that even something you're willing to contemplate?
There is a deal to be had. We just have to get to the table and start negotiating this, and we'll come out of it. But there is no plan B. If that doesn't happen, the industry will not be as large. You will not see as many people employed in it. And I don't want to contemplate that.
So good to have you, Brian. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Brian Kingston is president and CEO of the Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association. Windsor, Ontario is considered the automotive capital of Canada with a long history and deep employment in the sector. Drew Dilkens is the mayor of Windsor, Ontario. He joins us now. Thanks for being with us, Mayor.
My pleasure.
So obviously, the new federal auto strategy is aimed at keeping and growing the sector. What's your expectation of what happens to the jobs in your community as you look down the road?
Well, I'm hoping we can see them grow. At the end of the day, this strategy is all about helping enhance the EV strategy. We see the move with China with respect to a couple of percent of vehicle sales in Canada being opened up to the Chinese market. And the goal is let's bring jobs here. Let's continue to grow this industry. We have strong expertise, more than 100 years of experience in this area with automotive and tool, die, and mold. And we want to see it grow and continue.
Obviously, Mayor, a big question mark hangs over CUSMA. A huge part of that is around our auto relationship, which predates that trade agreement, obviously going all the way back to the 60s in the Auto Pact. How important is it to get that part of it right? What are you hoping for from those negotiators?
Well, I think it's essential. We've built, and we use the term Amanda, unscramble the egg. It's very difficult to do that. And with respect to the auto industry and the thought that the United States would simply repatriate every job that has moved to Canada or to Mexico as part of these complex supply chains is quite unrealistic. And so if they're not able to do that, which we don't think they could do, and certainly not in any short order, that means they have to get the parts from somewhere. And if they're putting tariffs on parts that come from Canada and Mexico, that just means American consumers are going to pay more for vehicles. There's already an affordability challenge. Why would the president want to layer on more cost to residents who are already struggling?
Just in terms of the community there, this has been a tough time. Plants opening, plants closing, announcements made, lots of excitement about batteries, and then, of course, a bunch of pullbacks. What's the feeling by people who are employed or who may want to be employed in future for young people in the area?
Yeah, well, listen, our largest employer is Stellantis. They make the Chrysler Pacifica here and the Charger as well. And they just finished hiring to add the third shift back. So about 1,500 people were hired to bring the third shift back because vehicle sales are very, very strong. They decoupled from the LG Energy Solutions Nexstar battery plant, but that's okay. LG has battery expertise globally, and they've committed to making this multi-billion-dollar investment work. They may not make EV batteries in the short term, but they're making other batteries for storage systems. And so on all fronts, things are still moving forward here, but there is that air of uncertainty that exists, probably not just in Windsor, but across our province and throughout our country, as we wait to see what happens this year with the renegotiation of USMCA and CUSMA.
Windsor, of course, very much in the news this week because of the Gordie Howe Bridge and claims that the U.S. has been treated unfairly. It feels as though that's going to die down here, Mayor, but are you concerned at all about the future of that?
I'm not, and I wish someone had sent Donald Trump and Carolyn Levitt a video and told them and showed them that the bridge is fully constructed. It's fully constructed and it's fully connected to the highway systems in Canada and the interstate systems in Michigan, in the United States. And so when you hear comments about the president wanting to see more U.S. building materials in the bridge project, are they talking about tearing the bridge down and starting over? Because that's exactly what would be required at this point in time. Clearly, the owner of the Ambassador Bridge, based on the New York Times article, had some influence with Secretary Lutnick, who then called Donald Trump. You see the post that's happened, and I get it. The owner of the Ambassador Bridge it's privately owned. He wants to protect his interest, and certainly a government bridge coming online that will take 70 or 80% of his business away overnight is cause for alarm. So, you know, the billionaires are working together, doing what they're doing. But at the end of the day, this bridge has been built. It's been talked about for 25 years. Successive presidents, prime ministers, mayors, premiers, governors have all played a hand in moving it forward. It's built. It's ready to open, and I can't wait to see it open later this year.
And I guess I should ask, it's pretty important for the local economy, I'm guessing, too.
It'll be the most state-of-the-art, technologically efficient bridge. And for a community like ours, the auto capital of Canada, just on the other side of the border is the Motor City. This entire auto industry works on a just-in-time delivery basis. So to remove the friction at the border and allow trucks to get across and people to cross very seamlessly is really essential for the economies and the livelihoods of people in my community, but also those who live in Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky. And I can't wait for it to open. It's a beautiful bridge, and I think it's going to be very well utilized by a lot of folks shipping goods across the border and local residents traveling as well.
So good to have you, Mayor. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Drew Dilkens is the Mayor of Windsor, Ontario. Coming up, the confidence not just to start a business, but hire an employee can make a huge economic difference. That's still ahead. But first, Danish drug maker Novo Nordisk was on the offensive this week, taking on U.S. telehealth firm Hims & Hers. At issue, a compounded version of Novo's weight loss drug, Wegovy. Hims & Hers launched a pill version of semaglutide on Friday. By Sunday, it had already agreed to stop selling it after the Danes launched a legal broadside that included warnings that compounded drugs in general could be unsafe. One thing was clear, the legal tussle had a slimming effect on the shares of both firms. We're back after this.